and welcome to the DSR Daily. I'm David Rothkopf. I am one of your hosts. Riley Fessler is another one of your hosts. How are you today, Riley?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. And Minna Stein, of course, is the other one of our hosts. How are you, Minna?
Fabulous. How are you?
Fabulous. Well, we're fabulous. And why don't you kick us off, Minna?
All right. A federal judge is investigating whether the Trump administration violated a court order by continuing deportations of alleged gang members to El Salvador, despite his directive to turn planes around. The Department of Justice argues that the order didn't apply once the planes were in international airspace, but the judge criticized this defense, emphasizing that his order should have been respected, regardless of flight status. The court has demanded further explanations from the Department of Justice, and a subsequent hearing will take place on Friday to review whether the administration failed to comply with the court's ruling.
Well, let's be clear. Minna's using kind of language that you see in the newspaper. The administration didn't comply with the court's ruling. The administration could have turned the planes around while they were in flight. The administration could have kept the people from leaving the plane, and they didn't do any of those things. So they did not comply with the order. And what the judge is really doing is solidifying his case and determining whether he's going to hold anybody in contempt of court. The administration will then let us all know whether we're up to our waists or up to our necks in a constitutional crisis, because they can then say, well, we're not going to do anything about it, or we are going to do something about it, or we're going to take it to the Supreme Court, and then we'll see what they do if they get an adverse ruling there. Because the way they handled this violated the law, violated all precedents. Their arguments were beyond a stretch. They were ludicrous. But the judge is being very, very careful here. He's a very experienced judge. He's the head of the D.C. Circuit. And by the way, as a judge who's ruled for Trump as many times in some critical cases, like whether people could have access to his taxes, for example. So he's he's known to be a fair guy. And I think what he's asked for by today is explanation as to whether or not what their explanation was. And he said, if it's classified, let's do it in a classified session. He's really, covered his bases. The administration last night attempted to, get around his decision on this and not to have to file the explanation. But of course, that was unsuccessful. And we're now having stories breaking in the media of the multiple people who are on those flights not being gang members, or at least their families asserting they weren't gang members. At least 4, according to reporting from the Washington Post right this morning. So, what we have is an administration running completely around the law. And we have to see how the courts are going to respond. Certainly the response out of the White House has been appalling, whether it's from the press secretary or whether it's from Tom Homan, the guy who's responsible for these decisions, or whether it's from sort of the mastermind of all these plans, Deputy White House Chief of Staff Stephen Miller. But this is a very, very important series of cases, whether you're interested in immigration law or not, because it's going to determine a great deal about whether or not we have entered an authoritarian state, and whether or not that authoritarian state is going to be run like a police state. All indications are that we have, and it is. Riley?
Israeli airstrikes on Gaza killed over 400 people, according to Palestinian health authorities, threatening the collapse of the 2-month ceasefire as Israel vowed to intensify efforts to free hostages held by Hamas. The strikes targeted Hamas leaders and infrastructure, but also hit civilian areas, exacerbating the humanitarian crisis. Hamas accused Israel of violating the ceasefire, while Israel described the attacks as a preemptive offensive to weaken Hamas's military capabilities. Mediators, including Egypt, are working to salvage the ceasefire amid ongoing tensions and failed negotiations.
Look, the ceasefire, if you kill 400 people with a bunch of strikes, the ceasefire has been broken, right? The Israeli government has some problems, political problems, that it wants to distract from. And it knows it can do anything with complete impunity because Donald Trump supports them in all of their war crimes. And so I think we can expect more of this. It does bookend the day because you have the Israelis doing strikes that the US government is complicit in. And remember, this administration has been sending them more weapons and things suited to these strikes. And later today, we have Trump talking to a different war criminal, Vladimir Putin. In both cases, you can expect Trump to support the war criminal, defend the war criminal, and assist the war criminal. And that's where we are in U.S. foreign policy today, folks. We've done things in our history that have been evil things. There is no question about that. Whether it's slavery or the eradication of Native Americans or dropping the atomic weapons on Japan. But this is a foreign policy that has evil more at the center of it, and in an open and explicit way than we've ever seen before from the United States.
President Donald Trump stated that Iran would be held responsible for any attacks by the Houthi group in Yemen as the U.S. expanded its military actions in the region. The U.S. launched airstrikes targeting Houthi positions in retaliation for their threats to international shipping and continued attacks on U.S. ships. Meanwhile, the Houthis, backed by Iran, have ramped up assaults on shipping lanes in the Red Sea, and the conflict has drawn in other regional players, further escalating tensions in the Middle East.
As if the Middle East needed more tensions. The administration is doing this knowing that all the other countries in the world, in the region, support him doing it, support them doing it, and it gives Trump an opportunity, as I noted yesterday, to flex his strength, show that the United States is tough. Part of the performative aspects of U.S. foreign policy, if you're on the Houthi receiving end of all of this, it doesn't seem performative at all. Riley?
A midwife, Maria Margarita Rojas, and her associate, Jose Ley, were arrested in Texas and charged with illegally performing abortions and practicing medicine without a license, marking one of the first criminal cases against abortion providers since Roe v. Wade was overturned in 2022. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton accused Rojas of operating clinics where abortions were performed in violation of the state's near-total abortion ban, which classifies the procedure as a second-degree felony. The arrest followed an investigation by Paxton's office, and Rojas's clinics were targeted with a temporary restraining order to halt further alleged illegal activity.
What can I say, America? This is what happens in the post-Roe v. Wade era. Vital health care is being denied people. People like this midwife are offering it contrary to the law because they have sworn themselves to assist people in need. It's a shame. It's a scandal. It's particularly odious to have a guy like Ken Paxton, who was credibly accused of a whole bunch of crimes and then got off for political reasons, being the enforcer. But I expect that such prosecutions are only likely to increase in frequency over the course of the months ahead because of the position of this administration and so many of the people within it. Minna?
The Trump administration rejected a French politician's request to return the Statue of Liberty, with White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt asserting that the U.S. had helped save France during World War II. The request was made by French MEP Raphael Glucksmann, who criticized the U.S. under Trump for abandoning values symbolized by the statue and suggested France could absorb America's research sector. However, the statue remains U.S. property, and any attempt to reclaim it could worsen diplomatic relations, complicating President Macron's efforts to mediate peace in Ukraine.
I do not expect that the Statue of Liberty is going anywhere. I do not think that the French assertion that it should was anything other than rhetorical. The U.S. response was pretty odious. The White House press secretary, Catherine Leavitt, is um, the worst that we ever had. I mean, we had Sean Spicer. We had the current governor of Arkansas. These were terrible press secretaries. This woman is the dumbest, most, but it's not just her stupidity that really pushes my buttons. It's that she, has no awareness of it or sees it as no impediment and speaks with incredible condescending arrogance to the press and about the world. And her statement, like, well, the French would be speaking German if it wasn't for us, which is what she said yesterday, um, uh, is pretty disgusting, given that many people defended the French, given that it does not in any way refute the assertions of the French politician who is making them. And by the way, it ignores a few other things. We would all be subjects of the king if it wasn't for people like the Marquis de Lafayette. So this is repulsive. France was our critical ally in the Revolutionary War. And it is par for the course. Later today, we've got the Trump-Putin conversation. Watch that closely. We have another hearing on this immigration case. Watch that closely. We have another day of markets scared out of their wits by this administration's policies. Watch that closely. We will. And we'll be back here tomorrow with more. We'll also have a Scylla Consciousness episode for you later today. And of course, we'll have our national security foreign policy episode, as we do every week on Wednesday, tomorrow, and then a politics deep dive on Thursday. So join us for all that. Join us, of course, for TNR's The Daily Blast. Become a member, help support what we're doing. It's more important by the day. And we'll be here tomorrow. Until then, thanks, Riley. Thanks, Minna. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Bye-bye.